Hello, everyone. I'm Khachatourian, the editor of Asbarez, and welcome to another edition of our discussion. Today, joining me is California State Senator Anthony Portantino, a familiar face to our audience. We're going to talk about a COVID-19 emergency. We're going to talk about what California should do regarding Armenia and Artsakh after the devastating war, as well as the Democratic elections for the Assembly District 43 that are being held right now, and the deadline is tomorrow. Senator Portantino, welcome. It's always good to have you.
Thanks, R. It's good to see you under these crazy, unprecedented times. So thanks for the opportunity to talk to you and also the Asbarez community.
Sure. Since the last time you and I spoke, the COVID emergency has gotten worse in California. And although we're hearing that because of the vaccinations, the number of cases is slowly decreasing. But I know that you have taken several initiatives in the Senate for relief to Californians. Can you talk about those a little bit?
Well, one of the most important issues, and last year, Senator Caballero and Assemblymember Chu authored legislation on a rent moratorium and financial relief for tenants, programming some of the federal dollars, and that was set to expire. And so we extended the eviction moratorium until June 30th, and it programmed $2.6 billion to help tenants have up to 1 year of their prior rent payments repaid, and to create strong incentives for landlords to enter this program as well. So if landlords forgive 20% of rent, they'll get reimbursed 80% of their back rent. And so that passed last week because we had a deadline at the end of the month to extend the current law. So this extends it to June 30th. So one of the biggest challenges is obviously, well, two, making sure landlords participate in the program. And so that's why there's an incentive for landlords to participate. And number two, making sure there's legal aid available for some of the most challenged renters out there. And so there's $31 million in legal aid as well. So it wasn't my legislation. It was a combination of both houses working together with the governor's office to extend the prior legislation. But obviously, I was proud to support it and happy that we're both protecting the tenants significantly and then the landlords. Because as you know, there's a lot of folks who are mom and pop landlords. Everybody thinks that it's big conglomerates, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in California who have that, rental property as their retirement. And so you have to protect the mom and pop landlords as well as their tenant base so you don't disrupt the entire economy and displace thousands of tenants and exacerbate the homeless problem. So we had to sort of strike that balance.
It's important to note for our viewers that this is not a rent forgiveness element. It's a matter of taking some of the burden off during this situation. If you can kind of clarify that, because a lot of people that I have spoken to, they think that it's rent forgiveness, and I think they should know that it's not.
Well, 20% of it is. So if landlords forgive 20% of the rent, then they'll get reimbursed 80% of that back rent for a year and then 3 months going forward. So it's basically 15 months of rent that we're using federal dollars to pay the landlords 80% of what the rent that they were due if they forgive 20% of the tenant's burden. And so it's I think an efficient use of the federal relief dollars to stabilize. You want to keep, here's the thing. If you keep people in their homes, it actually saves the state. I mean, it's obviously the humane thing to do because you don't want to create a surge in homelessness. And so we want to help the tenants, but it also has an economic benefit. Once people leave their homes, it drags on the economy 10 times more than keeping people in their homes. So short-term rental assistance is actually the smartest economic investment we can make as a government because it saves us money from a chronic homelessness problem down the road. And so this is a pretty wise way to do it. You incentivize the tenants to participate, excuse me, the landlords to participate. You protect the tenants and you protect the mom and pop landlords.
And you recently had a video conference which Asbarez live streamed about small business loan program. Can you talk about that? I know the deadline has passed, or is
The
it?
deadline for phase one, but there's going to
Okay.
be another. There's going to be another phase. So the governor, on the eve of Christmas, just before Christmas, wanted to make sure that small businesses had a relief package, and so he created a $500 million small business relief program and launched it over the Christmas holidays because small businesses obviously are suffering immensely during the pandemic, and the governor wanted to make sure that they had relief. And so we did 2 town halls with the Governor's Office of Business Development and the Small Business Association to get the word out. We did one in English and we did one in Armenian, which you live streamed, and we've got tremendous traffic. We partnered with 17 chambers of commerce in my district to promote it, and the deadline for phase one has passed. But anybody who applied in phase one automatically has applied for phase two. And so those folks who met the first deadline are in the queue for the next round of money. And those folks who didn't apply will have a second opportunity to apply for up to $25,000 in just straight money to help them get through the pandemic.
And one of the key issues that everyone is confronting during this whole COVID thing is mental health and
Right.
making sure that everyone's doing okay on that front. I know that you're leading efforts on that issue about mental health education and preparedness, if you can talk about that.
Yeah, early in the pandemic, we did a town hall with several marriage and family therapists on how to get through this, sort of strategies to deal with it. And so that's up on my website. We took 25 questions from the public, things as simple as how divorced parents handle joint custody, which I hadn't even thought about, or how special needs students deal with the pandemic different than the non-special needs students. So we did a town hall with therapists early on, but as the pandemic has gone on, the toll on our young people has been tremendous. And so my thought is, let's use this time to put in place some good practices for when schools do fully reopen and kids are back in the classroom. So we're doing 2 things. One, we all talk about CPR and how people get trained for emergency response on the physical health, but mental health needs the same type training. And so there's a class in mental health first aid. So faculty members, staff, people who work at schools can recognize the signs of mental health issues and be trained in mental health first aid. So we have a bill to make sure that a certain percentage of school personnel have that training in mental health first aid. There's also a gray area in California education code where if you break your arm or you have the flu, that's an approved absence from school. But if you're home because of bipolar or other mental health issues, that's not necessarily considered an approved absence. And if we're trying to destigmatize mental health,
Mhm.
can you imagine a teenager saying, well, wait a minute, my teacher's not going to recognize my depression
Yeah.
as real. And so we want mental health to be treated the same as physical health. And then we teach kids health in school, but we don't teach them mental health in school. So we have another bill to create an age appropriate mental health curriculum. So students through their career, K-12, will learn about mental health appropriately. And so those are some of the things that we're doing in academically to arm kids, because I don't want to read in the paper another teenager committing suicide. I don't want to read about another family dealing with that tragedy. I dealt with it. My brother committed suicide years ago, and it's a club I don't want anybody else
Yeah.
to be part of. And we should use this time now to make sure that we don't have that trauma in the future. I put the suicide prevention hotline number on student IDs a couple years ago.
Oh,
They don't need the football schedule on their student ID. Give them something that, and most 99% of the students will need that number, but that one that needs it, let them have it available.
and it's also important because it can lessen the stigma of mental
Correct.
health issues from an early age and
Correct.
most likely provide an opportunity for people to get the help that they need. Um,
Exactly.
as last time we spoke, there wasn't a war in Artsakh. Azerbaijan and Turkey had not attacked Artsakh, but the reality is that it happened, and because of the November 9th agreement, Armenia was forced to surrender key territories, including Shushi, which you have
Right.
visited. Um, and we're in this reality where perhaps we need to go back and start anew, but I don't think so. You chair a committee in the Senate on Armenia and Artsakh. What do you think the state of California should be doing to address this particular reality?
Well, a couple things, and I'm glad you mentioned Shushi. What a tragedy it is to have lost that beautiful, beautiful place. And I was reading today about a farmer whose land was bifurcated, and all of the farming equipment has been taken by the Azeris, and so he can't even farm his property. And the family is obviously devastated. One of the sons was killed, and now the dad can't even farm. So the devastation is just exponentially horrible. I think one of the most important things for California is the select committee that I chair uh, mentions Artsakh. And I think symbolically that's important that California reaffirms its position for Artsakh sovereignty and independence. And so it wasn't an accident that I put that in the title. And so I've sent one when the committees get reauthorized. Artsakh will continue to be in the title of the committee. So I think symbolically that's important. Practically, obviously California, with the largest Armenian American population of any state in the country, plays a significant role in engendering cooperation and esprit de corps between not just California with the fifth largest economy, but the United States. We're a leader in having that relationship with Armenia. And so the trade office was negotiated last year. The MOU was signed. It's being the negotiations are being finalized to place the trade office. If you remember, years ago we had a trade office
Hmm.
that was
Yes.
funded. It was funded by the Armenian community. Governor Newsom had a slightly different version, which I think is better. He wanted to create a trade desk and have it be housed again under the governor's office of business development and have an actual full-time state employee staff these trade desks around the globe. And I think he has a series of 8 trade desks he wants to establish. And the one in Yerevan is the first one that California has negotiated. And so I think our committee will work through that trade desk, which is slated to be set up at Impact Hub, which is an incubator in Yerevan, which is an exciting place of business development and intellectual property development. And so that's the goal, to place it there. I was happy to be at that original MOU signing and look forward to the formal implementation of the desk. So I think working through the trade desk is important. I think holding hearings on accountability, as you know, the select committee held a hearing on the pogroms that happened in Baku years ago, and we brought in survivors, and that was very educational for legislators to hear the firsthand accounts of the horror that happened. And then, of course, the Azeris came and protested, and we had the opportunity to rebut their arguments. And so I think getting the word out is important, stimulating the business relationships. Obviously, uh, last year I was able to get $1 million for Glendale's uh, tech incubator, and one of the grants went to an Armenian-based company. And
Hmm.
so that's a direct result of that cooperation between the state of California investing in the Glendale Tech Accelerator, which Zadeh Sananian created before he left
Hmm.
to go be the minister in Armenia. And so that was a direct investment in an Armenian-based business that also has interest in California and Glendale. And
Yeah.
so we're trying to do everything we can, both from a big picture, esprit de corps relationship, but then a practical on the ground investment in Armenian businesses, both through the Small Business Association and then through the various accelerators.
Mhm. Your Democratic colleagues yesterday, Jackie Spear and Adam Schiff, members
Yeah,
of Congress, authored a very powerful op-ed yesterday in the San
right.
Francisco Chronicle, asking the Biden administration to essentially take a closer look at the aggression by Azerbaijan and Turkey and stem that. Now, here in California, both houses of the legislature as well as the governor have approved the divestment in Turkey element. Is it time for California to actually take steps to that end?
I think a couple things. First, I think the op-ed that Congressman Schiff and Spear authored was, I read it last night. It was a terrific op-ed, and I think it also underscores just how poorly the Trump administration handled the war and how they sort of looked the other way. And I don't think it was a surprise, or I don't think it was not done on purpose that Erdogan backed this attack on Artsakh in the waning days of the Trump administration. I think it was opportunistic, knowing that they could get away with it. So I
Mhm.
think everybody's hopeful that the Biden administration will take a much different tactic than the Trump administration. And having Congressman Schiff and Spear, lead that effort, I think we have no two finer Congress members, authoring strong efforts to have the Biden administration take a different tact. I think, yes, the divestment bill uh, that went through set the stage, but now it's up to California to follow through. And there's no reason why California should be investing in anything related to Turkey from prior to the war, and now, of course, since the war. It just makes it a much easier argument to make, and so many of us are making that argument with the administration across the board.
Mhm.
Um, what happened in Artsakh, it breaks my heart, having been there 3 times. And then, folks I broke bread with in Hadrut to find out, because Burbank has a sister cities relationship with Hadrut, and I visited it with the Burbank ANC to know that some of the folks that we had lunch with were wounded and one was killed. To know the school in Shushi that I visited is shuttered and closed, and those wonderful young people have been evacuated. This it's a tragedy that should never have happened, and California needs to use our fifth largest economy as a statement to say investing in Turkey is wrong.
And that would be a good start for the new year to address that particular issue. I know that tomorrow there's a deadline for a series of elections, Assembly District 43 Democratic elections. Why are these elections important?
Well, they're important because these are the grassroots activists that get elected to be members of the Democratic Party. A lot of folks think that, a political party structure's top down, but it really is bottom up. It starts with grassroots activists. And these elections decide which, in this case, 14 grassroots activists in the 43rd Assembly District, which includes Glendale and Burbank and Sunland Tujunga, or areas with a large Armenian population. It decides which grassroots activists get elected. And so the one particular slate has 5 Armenians on it, and that's the slate I'm supporting.
Mhm.
And hope everybody votes for that particular slate. Our good friend Zanku Armenian and Savannah is on it. There's a member of the ARS that's on it. I mean, the community is well represented on that slate. And so if you have your ballot, you have to postmark it by tomorrow, get it in, because one way we can influence what happens at the party is by electing grassroots activists who understand, in this case in particular, the importance of speaking out against the Azeri aggression of Artsakh. And,
Mhm.
there's been efforts that have been done before. I know Ellen Khachatourian has brought forth motions to the Democratic Party, and they haven't always gone through because there's not a significant number of delegates who understand the issue. And so the best way to have success is to elect delegates who understand the issue. Savannah is running for the executive board of the party. So if her slate wins, not only will she become a delegate to the party, but she'll become a delegate to the executive board, which is where some of the major decisions are made. So it's very important that the grassroots activists get elected, and it's important that folks who see this program who are sitting on their ballot fill it out and mail it in as quickly as possible.
And the technicality is you have to be a registered Democrat living in the 43rd district.
You had to be a registered Democrat, and you already would have had to request your ballot. So there were 4,400 people who requested ballots. So if you're part of that 4,400 who requested your ballot and you haven't mailed it in, you need to mail it in as soon as today or tomorrow.
Okay. And for our viewers who have requested their ballots, the Armenian National Committee of America Western Regions, Glendale, Burbank, La Crescenta, and Hollywood chapters have been active in this process. You can go ahead and visit their Facebook pages for more information. And certainly, I'm sure, Senator, your social media accounts also feature information about that. So it's important to take part because, as the Senator pointed out, it's a grassroots efforts. It's bottom to top, not top to bottom. We sometimes, forget that element, and it's important to take part. Senator, once again, thank you for taking the time and talking to us about these important issues. We'll be informing our readers about further COVID-19 efforts, and we'll work with your office as a community to make sure that the issues with Armenia and Artsakh are addressed. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Ara. Be well and Happy New Year, my friend.
You too. Take care.